Before the story begins, I'd like to ask you to subscribe and like. This will help the channel grow. The Vanishing of the Glass Safe, a detective mystery story. Detective Roland Keene had seen break-ins, he had seen explosions, and he had even seen thieves tunnel through concrete, but he had never in his entire career seen a vault disappear. Not emptied, not broken, vanished. That was the only word the panicked curator could produce when she called him just before dawn. The glass safe, a uniquely engineered transparent vault used by the Metropolitan Exhibition Hall to store the world's rarest scientific artifacts, had simply ceased to exist sometime between 2:10 and 2:14 a.m. The cameras captured nothing except a brief flicker of static and a strange bluish pulse that lit up the room like distant lightning. The hall was otherwise untouched. No smashed locks. No missing floor panels. Not a speck of debris. The vault had been there, and then it wasn't. The strange part wasn't the disappearance of the safe itself, but what had been inside. The chrono shard, a polished crystal fragment believed to be part of an experimental time measurement device created by an eccentric physicist in the 1920s. According to historical claims, the shard was rumored to affect electromagnetic frequencies. According to conspiracy theorists, it could bend time. According to Keene, objects don't just vanish unless someone makes them vanish. He walked around the display floor, his boots echoing in the eerie silence. The smell of ozone still lingered. The curator insisted it had not been there earlier. Beneath the former location of the safe, he discovered faint scuff marks. 3 sets of footprints, each overlapping as though people were pacing in frantic circles. They looked recent. Too recent, Keene exhaled slowly. This wasn't theft, he muttered. This was an extraction. And the thieves weren't amateurs. They came prepared for something extraordinary. By noon, Keene was standing inside a dusty attic office above a clock repair shop downtown. The air smelled of oil and old books. This was the former workspace of Dr. Lucian Hartwell, the eccentric scientist who allegedly built the original device that the chrono shard came from. Hartwell had vanished in 1933 under mysterious circumstances, leaving behind half-finished blueprints and pages filled with cryptic formulas. The office was a cluttered maze of sketches, metal fragments, copper coils, and notebooks filled with handwriting that slanted at chaotic angles. Nothing about the space felt abandoned. Dust lay on the shelves, but the center desk had been disturbed. Paper sat slightly askew. A book that should have been level with the others was jutting out. Someone had been here, recently. Keene discovered a thin metal cylinder beneath a stack of schematics. Inside, a tightly rolled piece of vellum covered in diagrams showing a glass-like capsule with electromagnetic anchors. The device looked eerily similar to the stolen glass safe, except the drawings were from 1928. Hartwell had sketched it decades before anyone else had conceived such technology. Even stranger, the vellum included handwritten instructions for triggering a temporal resonance fold, something that, according to the margin notes, could destabilize the space around the capsule. Keene felt a chill. Was the vault removed or relocated? He also found a list of names. Current names. People alive today, physicists, engineers, and a former museum consultant. Every person on the list had a connection to the hall. Someone had continued Hartwell's research. Someone had modernized it, and someone was now very close to controlling whatever power the chrono shard possessed. That evening, Keene followed the first name from the list, Dr. Marcus Sloan, an electromagnetic specialist who resigned from the hall 3 months earlier. Sloan now resided in the Broken District, a shuttered industrial neighborhood riddled with abandoned machine shops and flickering streetlights. Keene reached Sloan's workshop just in time to see the man fleeing through the back door with a metal case in his hand. When Sloan spotted him, he sprinted toward the alleyway, knocking over scrap metal piles. The chase twisted through narrow paths and foggy corridors where shadows played tricks on the eyes. Twice Keen thought he saw two silhouettes behind Sloane, moving strangely in tandem, but every time he focused, they vanished into the mist. Sloane darted into a half-collapsed factory, where conveyor belts lay frozen mid-motion like skeletal remains. The detective tackled him behind a rusted turbine. The case burst open on impact. Rolled papers spilled across the floor, updated blueprints for Hardwell's electromagnetic chamber. But Sloane wasn't fearful. He was terrified. "The vault didn't disappear," he cried. "It shifted." Before Keen could question him, the shapes he glimpsed earlier appeared at the factory entrance. Not silhouettes this time, real figures in shimmering suits, faces obscured by reflective masks. They moved with uncanny precision, like synchronized reflections. They wanted Sloane. And whatever they were not ordinary thieves. Keen grabbed the papers, pulled Sloane up and forced him to run. Sloane was placed under protective custody, trembling through every question. It wasn't until 4 a.m. after hours of coaxing that he finally whispered the truth. He and several others had revived Hardwell's research, believing it would revolutionize energy storage. They succeeded too well. They accidentally created a resonance gap, a momentary spatial displacement detectable only by advanced sensors. Someone else detected it. A group calling themselves the Refractionists, a cult-like collective convinced time was a physical dimension manipulable by technology, infiltrated Sloane's research team. Their leader, an enigmatic figure known only as the Curator, believed the Chrono Shard was the missing component needed to complete Hardwell's experiment and open a permanent temporal access point. Keen's head throbbed. Cults, time research, vanishing objects. It sounded absurd. Except everything he'd witnessed so far felt absurd. But the most disturbing revelation came from Sloane's final confession. "The Curator claims Hardwell isn't dead. He says Hardwell slipped through a resonance fold 90 years ago and never returned." If the cult could now control the shard, perhaps they intended to bring Hardwell back, or send themselves forward. Before Keen could process this, a soft metallic hum vibrated in the interrogation room. Lights flickered. The air shimmered, for just a second, like heat rising from asphalt. They had been found. The police station was evacuated, but Keen stayed behind long enough to recover a tablet Sloane had been using before the lights warped. On it was a map, coordinates marking an underground hydroelectric station scheduled for demolition. The perfect place for a clandestine experiment. When Keen arrived, the station thrummed with unstable energy. Sparks danced along the railings. The massive turbines glowed faintly, vibrating in unnatural pulses. And there, suspended between two enormous coils, floated the missing glass safe, flickering in and out of visibility like a dying hologram. The chrono shard inside oscillated through spectrum after spectrum, illuminating the chamber in surreal hues. The refractionists surrounded it, chanting calculations rather than prayers. The Curator stood at the center, arms raised, as if orchestrating the frequencies themselves. Keen moved quickly, quietly, counting his seconds. And then everything collapsed at once. The safe stabilized briefly, fully visible, fully solid. A shockwave burst outward, sending cultists stumbling. The air rippled. The turbine screamed. For a heartbeat, Keen saw something impossible. A man in 1920s clothing reaching out from inside the resonance field, his expression startled, as though he just realized he was no longer alone. Hardwell. Alive. Trapped between moments. Keen lunged toward the control panel, grabbing a loose power conduit and slamming it upward. Sparks exploded. The chamber buckled. The resonance field shrieked as if alive. The Curator screamed, "Stop! You'll strand him forever." Keen kept pulling. The field collapsed in a blinding flash. and the glass safe crashed to the floor, solid, intact, no longer flickering. The chrono shard lay still inside. The cultists scattered. Hardwell was gone. By sunrise, the station was silent. Backup units secured the area, and the refractionists who hadn't escaped were taken into custody. The curator refused to speak except to murmur equations under his breath, as if he were still listening to frequencies others couldn't hear. The recovered chrono shard was returned to a reinforced containment facility, where top physicists examined it with trembling awe. Some claimed the energy signatures around it were now subtly altered, as though interaction with the resonance fold had changed its fundamental behavior. Others insisted that was impossible. Keen walked the length of the hull where it was now stored. The new security protocols were excessive to the point of absurdity, but no one objected. One vanishing vault was enough for a century. The case was officially closed. Unofficially? He knew better. During evidence review, Keen discovered that one item from Sloane's case, a tiny brass stopwatch with Hardwell's initials, had gone missing. No one had signed it out. No one admitted seeing it. But Keen found a note on his desk the next morning, written in elegant, old-fashioned handwriting. "The seconds are not done with us yet, LH." Keen folded the note carefully and tucked it into his coat. The world believed the resonance fold had collapsed. But something, or someone, had stepped through, and the next disturbance was only a matter of time.